What's going on, guys? We're back with the next part of our tutorial series. So I'm gonna go ahead and I had other things planned. I wanted to get sound working in this video, but instead I'm gonna go ahead and um, add a much needed improvement to our combat system. And this is something that I wanted to do. I just forgot about. So one thing that annoys me is that if you're moving one way and you're getting chased by an enemy, you can't shoot at that enemy because you can only shoot in the way that you're facing. So I think a better way of doing this would be we're going to need to do changes to our combat script and to our platformer motion script here. The first thing I want to do is instead of setting facing to our motion, we're going to set facing to our mouse. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and copy this, or we'll copy all of this right here. In fact, I remember we were talking about efficiency in the last video. A better way would be to go ahead and put this in here. We'll make this public, so now we can access it from the other scripts. And we'll do vector 3.0. Alrighty, and then we can go in here and we'll do if combat, and up here we'll do player combat equals get component player combat. So this just gets the script that's attached to this game object called player combat. We'll do if combat dot mouse position dot x is greater than our transform dot position dot x, and we're not facing right, we're gonna set facing right to true and flip the player. Else now remember what we did before is we wanted it so if we weren't moving we wouldn't flip the player. However, we don't even need to do the second check, because if it's not, the chances of our mouse getting on the exact pixel is extremely rare, and even if it does, it'll just assume that would be facing to the left. It's not like the player would notice anyways. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's 1 pixel to the right. That's obviously not, it's a bug. People wouldn't notice something that minuscule. So we can just remove that whole check and just do a default else statement. Okay, so that's fixed to our facing, and then in here, we're just gonna do this where we comment that entire thing out, because this was the check where it did if our mouse position is to the right and we're facing right, or if our mouse position is to the left and we're facing left. Now either way we should always be facing the mouse, so it shouldn't be a problem, except for when we're pointing at ourselves, like above us. So what we'll do is well, okay. For now, we're just gonna go ahead and make sure everything else works, and then if we come across problems, we'll sort them out. Let's go ahead and hit play. So I'm moving to the left now and shooting to the right, which is good. I can also shoot to up and to the left. However, you'll notice as soon as I try and cross over, okay, that did work the way I wanted it to, because it flips the player. The firing position right here, it is also switched to the other side of the game object, so we don't have the problem where we're shooting ourselves, except for that one moment there. And the reason for that is because if I aim down, it is still to the left of us, but it's shooting backwards because it's that close. Good night, Timmy. So otherwise we can do this, and shooting above us doesn't matter. However, it's once we get close down here, that's when we have that problem. So can we shoot ourselves from the bottom? So what we'll do is we'll do a check. We'll do a check to see if our Y position is close to our dude's position. So we'll do if our mouse position dot Y is less than the new set of parentheses, where is it? Our transform dot position dot Y plus our controller, come on, dot height divided by 2. It's getting really sloppy, but I'll go ahead and I'll explain it in a second. Then we'll do public character controller. So this first check here, we're going to add a second one in a second, but what it'll do is check if our mouse positions dot Y, so where our mouse is relative to the up and down axis, if we are less than our basically the top of the player, because what this is taking our Y position, which is the middle of it, plus the height divided by 2, which is just getting it to the top of the player. So if we're less than that, in fact what we're going to do in here is we'll do that plus 0.5. So we have a 0.5 threshold too, so we're not getting close to it. In fact, right here we could do the projectile size to make sure that the projectile is large enough to get past that space, but I think 0.5 right now should be fine. And then obviously that's not, because we don't want to fire unless we're above that. So a better way of doing this would probably be instead of doing not, we'll do if the Y is greater than that, and then so now we need to do a second check to make sure we're not shooting below ourselves either. So what we'll do is we'll do an OR if our, and I'm going to go ahead and just copy this just so we don't have to do all that messy typing again. Our mouse position dot Y is less than our transform dot position dot Y minus the height divided by 2, and we'll do minus 0.5 here. Then we're allowed to update the rotation. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Oh, my friend, I forgot to drag on this character controller. Where is he? Right there. Okay, so now I can shoot up. However, once I try and go down, oh, whoops, let me move away here. It won't let me. It's coming close, actually. I might want to change that 0.5 threshold to something, something a little better. And then same. Let's try going down. Yeah, I'm gonna change. It's just getting too close for me. I'm getting a little nervous. So we'll change this to 1, and change this as well to 1. Now, one other thing we have to keep in mind is that this is checking every time. So even if I shoot out here, it won't update because this guy thinks that it's touching our mouse is hitting itself because it's lower than our height and greater than the bottom. It won't update the position. However, once I aim up, I'm allowed to move it around. So what we need to do is check to make sure that the mouse isn't to the left or to the right of the player as well. So we'll go ahead and do we'll make parentheses here. I'm gonna move away from compounding this just to make it not as messy. We'll do if or outside here we'll do we'll make an else if mouse position dot x is greater than our fire transform dot position dot x, or if our mouse position dot x is okay, this guy's starting to annoy me. So we have to do another if statement inside of an else. We'll do if our fire transform dot position dot x is greater than our transform dot position dot x. That's saying if we're facing right, or if you want to, you could do if motion dot is facing right, because that already does the check for us. Then fire transform dot position, or we'll do the second check up here. We'll do if it's facing right, and our fire transform, or we'll do mouse first. Now mouse position dot x is greater than our fire transform dot position dot x. And copy this code. Obviously it's not the most efficient because we're reusing code here, but it's not a big deal. We'll do else if motion dot is facing right. So if we're facing left, and mouse position dot x is less than our fire transform dot position dot x, then once again we will update this, and then we can go ahead and actually remove this else statement because it'll catch it either way. So we'll go ahead and do the check separately. We'll go in here, hit play. So we can go ahead and return like normal. However, once we try and shoot above it towards us, okay, I'm gonna lose my own game. It will no longer update. Same for below. However, we can still update to the left and right. So there we go. Hopefully, I'm trying to get some assets from old projects working in here. I've got, well, actually I can just turn them on in here. I've got this guy who I'm trying to import, and once I get him working, we'll start to get some actual assets in here, so we can notice flipping, and we'll get sounds working soon, and some more aesthetics that we need to get this game completed.